That is 16 in this book. Like, how are we supposed to believe that? Like, 16? How is she 16? I'm just annoyed because every time I get attached to a character, they die. Hi and welcome to my booktube channel. My name is Sam and I'll be talking to you about some books today. And today I'm going to be specifically talking to you about some books that have been on my shelf for over a year now, and I feel like it's about time to finally get to them. As you can probably tell from that title, those books are going to be the Throne of Glass series, which this is a gigantic box set, and that's really intimidating, but I'm going to try my best to get through them. And as the procrastinator I am, I've already read 2 of the books by the time I film this intro, but I guess you'll see my reaction to them as we get on. I should probably explain the video. I'm going to be reading all these books in this video and telling you my thoughts. There will be spoilers. I've seen a lot of mixed reviews about this series. That people either hate it and say it's terrible, it's awful, 1 star, and some people love it, like my friends. So yeah, I hope I'm on that side, not like the despise. But I'm gonna put this down, it's so heavy. I have read The Assassin's Blade and Throne of Glass by the time it took me to film this video, and they were pretty good. So I do have hope for this series. Anyway, let's get into these books, and I'll tell you my thoughts on them. So I started my Throne of Glass journey with The Assassin's Blade, which is the prequel to the main body of text. And this one follows Selena on her kind of like journey as an assassin. We see her on multiple missions, and we kind of see her get to where she starts in Throne of Glass, which is in a supermax high security prison. So there's 5 different stories in here on varying degrees of goodness. Like, I really enjoyed the first 3 in particular, and then I feel like the last 2 kind of were a bit but in the first one we literally get like assassins versus pirates, which is really interesting, and I should probably explain more about that. Selena is on her first mission. She is sent with a fellow assassin called Sam, who is my favourite character. And I can't believe I started an 8-book series and my favourite character is already dead. Like, spoilers, but Sam dies at the end of this book. I'm so mad. And like, he's not even my favourite because we have the same name. He was genuinely my favourite character. I felt like he had a really interesting character, and his chemistry with Selena was really cute, and also really fun. That they started kind of like enemies to lovers kind of, and they killed him in the first book that I read. And they mention him in Throne of Glass as well, and I'm like, I know him, he was my favourite character. But Selena is sent with Sam to procure some slaves, because there's like this giant slave trade kind of thing, and Selena, obviously as a good person, defies that and helps free the slaves. And that kind of like sets like the tone for the rest of the book, because she's being punished for helping the slaves because her master, who I've forgotten the name of, didn't want her to do that. He's like the king of assassins, and he's like really mad at her, and she spends this book trying to get out of under the thumb. She tries to get out of his grasp, basically. She wants to get out of his service. She wants to pay off her debts to him, because he kind of saved her as a child and she owes him for that. So she's trying to pay that off and get out. Obviously, you already know she ends up in prison at the end. So it's kind of like, does she do it? Also, I can't believe, like, Selena is 16 in this book. Like, how are we supposed to believe that? Like, 16? How is she 16? She probably ages up in the later books, but like, she's literally like this really badass assassin that everyone knows the name of in the kingdom. She's the most feared assassin, and she's 16. Like, she even remarks like, oh, people think I'd be older, or people thought I'd be someone else. And I'm like, yeah, of course, because you're a 16-year-old. How are you doing this? Like, I find that a bit unbelievable. Maybe if she was like 18 or something, it'd be a bit more believable. But 16 is like pushing it. And also, we kind of start the book and she's already like this super powerful assassin. She doesn't really need to learn anything. She just knows how to throw knives, how to do archery. She knows all this stuff. And I feel like as a prequel, it would have been more interesting to see how she got to that level rather than her already being there. Because as of now, of reading this one and Throne of Glass, she has stayed at a similar level of always being this really amazing assassin. And we kind of don't see how she gets this. We're just told that she's this amazing assassin. The plot twists were kind of like typical to YA. Like, there were some really obvious things where it's like, you're being set up, Selena. You're being set up with this plan. And she's like, oh, I'm going to do this mission. I'm like, no, this is a setup. Why are you doing this? Especially with the last story. But she's just got to be done when the plot needs her to be done. So yeah, they're my thoughts on this first prequel book. Definitely read this before you start the other books. So it makes things make sense, which is good. There's my thoughts summed up. Let's get on to Throne of Glass. So then the last book I'm going to talk to you about today is Throne of Glass, which follows Selena as she's free from the prison and is kind of entered into this competition to become the king's assassin. But the king is like this evil dictator, so it's kind of like, I don't want to be his assassin, but I have to get out of prison. And she's given a deal is that if she wins this trial against these other assassin would-bes, then she will serve the king for 4 years and then be free. And that's an interesting concept. I feel like this book kind of fumbled that here and there. It kind of like felt like the competition was kind of overlooked. Like we'd skip tests and stuff constantly, but there was also like different elements of like monsters and mystery in here, so I guess that kind of makes up for it. It had similar vibes to Red Queen, which is again that typical YA feeling. I liked a lot of our new cast members. We were introduced to the Prince Dorian, who I enjoyed. He had pretty good chemistry with Selena, but it's kind of like a love triangle with the captain of the guard called Kale. I don't really feel it. Like Kale, I think I'm saying his name right, Kale or something, has literally no chemistry with Selena. Like, I don't see it at all. Dorian, yes, but it feels forced. Now, I'm going to put myself out there. I ship Selena with Nehemia more than I do with Dorian or Kale. I just feel like Nehemia and Selena, I keep saying her name wrong, have more chemistry. They have so much chemistry, whereas Dorian and Kale just don't. I mean, this should have been a sapphic series. Like, I know they're not going to end up together. I know she's going to end up with Dorian for a bit and then go with Kale and probably go back to Dorian. But she should be with Nehemia. Another character I wasn't that bothered about was the Catelina character. She was just kind of like scheming to get with Dorian. I'm like, I don't care. And she can like poison Selena at the end, but it kind of doesn't amount to anything. So I'm like, why was she included? Is she going to be more important in the later books, maybe? Maybe she's going to be like a new rival for Selena in the later books, or maybe she's going to become like friends with Selena. I was going to say lovers, but like we know this book isn't going to be sapphic or the rest of the series. It should have been, but it probably won't be. I also want to see more of the world in this book. We stay primarily in the capital city if we're not like in the prison. And I want to see more of the world. I don't want to be stuck in the prison. I don't want to be stuck in the capital for the entire series. But yeah, I think they're all my main points. So overall, I would give this one 3.5 stars. And this one 4 stars, which you probably saw if you're following me on Instagram already. But 4 stars, 3.5. I definitely enjoyed this one more. But this one was still enjoyable. It had typical YA books. I'm not seeing the hate. I don't see why people would hate this series yet. Maybe it gets worse. But yeah, they're the first 2 books. I'll see you when I finish, Crown of Midnight. So it's July 5th and I finished Crown of Midnight, the second, technically my third book in the Throne of Glass series. This book popped off. We got a lot more direction for the series. I feel like I kind of like know where the series is going now. Because in the first book it was kind of like a competition to become the king's assassin, but like where are we going to go from there? Like what is going to happen after this? And this book really just like steered the steering wheel. And this book, it didn't really have a precise plot, but the main gist of it is we follow Selena again. Dorian and Kale also have POVs, and we follow them as they kind of like dip into like the rebellious side of the world. Like we start to see more of the rebels, and I love that they're not like straightforward rebels. They're kind of like have their dark side with like Archer. He's kind of like, he's a rebel against the king, but he goes about it in the wrong way. Am I going to get into this straight away? They killed my favourite character. Again, the second book, third book, whatever. They killed Nehemia. She was my favourite character and they killed her brutally. But unlike Sam, her death meant something. Sorry, Sam. But Nehemia dies. Like, I said there was going to be spoilers, so don't blame me if you watch this far. But Nehemia dies. She was my favourite character. and she dies in such a brutal way. Like, Archer sent like an assassin, obviously this gets revealed at the end, but Archer sends an assassin or whatever to kill Nehemia, and it's like this big bloody mess, and Celaena's running and she goes in and there's like a bloodbath everywhere, and it's but then she kind of like sets off Celaena on this journey to become a rebel against the king. So yeah, Nehemia dies to kind of set off this rebellious spark in Celaena. And okay, my neighbour's watching me record and it's really awkward. She literally dead on looks me in the eye. That is, I hate that neighbour. So we kind of like see Celaena push to that rebellious side. I also like Chaol a lot. I also like Chaol a lot more in this book. I kind of liked his relationship with Celaena as it built. I know I said I didn't care about it in this first part of the video, but he grew on me. I kind of like him. I do like Dorian and Celaena a bit better. They're more romantic and cute. And Dorian has powers. Dorian has like these super strength, rage, unpredictable power things, and I think that's really cool. And my prediction for either the next book of the series along is his dad's going to find out, imprison him, and then we're going to kind of like see Dorian escape. And maybe he'll escape with that Catalina person in the dungeons who is still like completely irrelevant. And it's kind of like, why is she here? Like, she hasn't done anything. So as I was saying, we get a lot more direction. We learn that the king has, well, the king has one of the three, but there's like these 3 ward keys that are like super powerful dimensional objects that can open portals. And the king has one, and that's how he captured the entire kingdom. And now Celaena is on a journey to kind of like find the keys and stop him from getting them, getting the rest of them, and then obviously stealing the rest, the one he has, I assume. Oh my god, so much happened in this. Like, I'm just bouncing from one thought to the next here, but like we learn that Celaena is, first off, Fae. She can like, she goes to this other dimension where her magic comes back to her and she's able to transform into this Fae. Like, her ears grow, her teeth sharpen. It's so kind of creepy but also cool. Celaena can't control her power. She only luckily attacked the demon instead of Chaol. And then we also find out that she's this lost princess person. I can't remember the name. It's on the last page. I could probably just look. Celaena Sardothien was Elaine Ashria Galai, I don't know how to say that name, the heir to the throne and rightful queen of Tarason. I mean, can you get more chosen one than this? And she knew this all along, but it never popped up in her like thoughts or anything, especially when it comes up earlier in the book when they're like, oh, these rebels are like after her. I get why it's not, but like, how do we not know that about her? I guess that kind of explains her overpoweredness, I guess, that I was complaining about in the first book, but I still would have liked to seen her develop powers rather than just having powers all the way through without any development. So yeah, the ward keys, she's going after those. And there's also this weird witch person called Yellowlegs, and it's kind of like established that there's like witch wars. They were in the past or were happening, I can't remember. And this Yellowlegs character was pretty good take on a witch. Like, it was really well portrayed. I really liked how creepy she was, the eerie vibe we got in her caravan with her kind of voice that was disembodied talking through these mirrors. And Celaena had to like smash the mirrors one after another to eventually get to her. I really enjoyed that. We saw a bit of Celaena being badass as she like burned the witch's body in her own stove. And then later on we find out that that's going to lead to more repercussions because the king actually invited this witch that was a part of the caravan. And he invited her to talk to her. So now the king is like involved in witches and there's going to be more witches. Like, this book sets up so much stuff. And honestly, there's so many plot twists in here. Like, are there going to be plot twists in the other books? I feel like we've had them all. And then we end with Chaol getting Celaena sent off to this other kingdom, which, like I said in my previous part, I'm excited to see more of the world. She's sent off, and then before she goes, Dorian says bye, and they're still kind of like not being very nice to each other because they don't want to fall in love. And Dorian leaves books in her room that were like about genetics and stuff against the kings, where he was trying to find out how he had powers and no one else did. And they also somehow have Celaena in there. And Chaol at the end conveniently finds these books when they've both left, and he finds out this Celaena is actually the special lost princess lady And the coincidence of that and the setup of it, I kind of really enjoy, because it was kind of like miscommunication done well, which I never thought I would say, but I really liked how it was done here. I liked how all the pieces kind of came together and you knew why the books were there, you knew who brought the books. I just really like that miscommunication kind of part. And I'm interested to see how that will spread between the three. Like, is Chaol going to tell Dorian about this? Is Chaol going to keep it to himself? Because Chaol's going to meet Elena. I was going to call her Elena there. Chaol's going to meet Celaena in William, whatever that place is called. So is like he going to talk to her about that? I'm really excited to see how this news gets out. If Celaena just straight up goes, yeah, let's rebel. Third book in, let's go kill the king. So yeah, they're my thoughts. So basically, to sum up for this book, I really like the direction we're being pushed into. I like that the communication trope was done well. I like the character development with Dorian getting powers, Chaol falling more in love with Celaena, and Celaena obviously being the lost princess. The cons, I would say, I still kind of wish we were shown Celaena developing. Like, it feels like she's on this constant, just like brilliant level, and we don't see her like fall and be like weak at any point. She's always the strong assassin that can take out whoever she wants. No one can take her down. So it kind of feels like there's no threat. Like, you'll have a group of like, a group of rebels. Yeah, that there's a group of rebels and they're holding Chaol hostage, and Celaena comes in. You just know she's gonna kill them all because she's amazing. So yeah, I wish there was a bit more challenge. It feels like I kind of think of Inej when I think of it, because with Inej in Six of Crows, she is this really amazing assassin kind of character, but we also see her struggle. We see her in her POV as she kind of like plans out everything. She thinks about where she's going to throw the knife. She thinks about who she has to take down first and stuff like that. And I feel like that would have been so much better to see Celaena do that as well. So I can't help but compare them. But yeah, the cons were I wish we'd seen more of her development, and I want to see more of the book. This is book 2, and we're still in the same palace. So yeah, and I want to know more about the king. So yeah, I'll see you in Heir of Fire when I finish that book. Hi, I'm now finished with Heir of Fire. I'm joined by Tessa, as you can see in the background. I don't know how long she'll stay, but she's here. But I have now finished Heir of Fire, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as Crown of Midnight. I just don't think it had like the same kind of like, whoa, things are kicking off. But it was still enjoyable. We follow in this one Celaena as she actually learns to do stuff. Like, she, in the end of the last book, we found out she was Fae. And then in this book, she goes to Terrasen because Chaol sent her there. And she speaks with like this Queen Maeve, and she's like, look, I'm not going to tell you anything you want to know about the Ward Keys unless you train up to be a proper Fae, because Maeve is like a Fae as well. So Celaena's like, oh, fine, I'll actually learn to use my powers. So we see Celaena learn fire powers, and we kind of go from the bottom up, which is what I really want to see. I really wanted to see her actually progress in something rather than being automatically great at it, like I was saying previously in this video. But that was nice. I really enjoyed that. And we also got introduced to a new character called Rowan, who was training her, and he's like this really old Edward Cullen kind of character, who's also a Fae, and he's like this really famous warrior. And they kind of have a relationship, him and Celaena, and I'm like, I don't know how to feel about that. Like, they're not together yet. I assume they will be, but they're not together yet. And I don't like the relationship between like immortal people and like non-immortal people. It's just weird. I don't like it. But I guess we'll see how that progresses in the later books. And we'll just follow Celaena. So Celaena is learning to use these fire powers. She's in this new land called Terrasen. And we just kind of explore this like an academy kind of thing with all these other like demi-fae who are like half fae, half humans, and they're treated like really badly. And we kind of follow Celaena and some other people as they learn to use these powers. And there's like threats, there's like these like skin flayer people. I thought they were really cool. I hope they come up again because I thought they were really intimidating. And then we also find out that there's been an army gathering later on in the book, obviously. There's been an army gathering to invade Terrasen, or like just this specific part of Terrasen where Celaena is. So we get a big battle at the end with like these demon generals that the king sent. And we kind of see Celaena face off against them, and now she's acquired this new firepower. We see that in action, and that was really fun. It's like this big defending the castle kind of thing. Like, you have the castle here with all the people, and then you have Celaena holding up the generals in between. I thought it was really fun. I kind of wish that had gone on a little longer. I felt like it was very quick. It was a very quick sequence. I wish it had lasted a bit longer. But that was really enjoyable, and like these demon lords kind of like feed on the anxieties and the fears and the darkness inside the people they're attacking. So we got to see a bit of Celaena's inner mind. And Nehemia was mentioned and stuff like that. Nehemia, I miss Nehemia. I wish she was still here, but like, she's dead. Speaking of Nehemia, I had another character I got attached to, which is in Dorian's POV. He kind of like falls in love with this nurse called Sorsha, and I was really enjoying her character. I thought she was really cool. I thought she was going to become like a major player in the series. She dies at the end of the book. She gets beheaded by the king, and I'm just annoyed because every time I get attached to a character, they die. So we're 4 books in now. I'm 4 books into the series, and my favourite characters keep dying. So what's the point? I'm not going to get attached to any more characters. But I guess we'll carry on with Dorian. So Dorian is falling in love with this healer, and that's basically his entire plot. Besides like questioning his powers and stuff. Because they're kind of trying to find a way to like suppress his powers. And then Kale is also with Dorian, and he is just around. He wasn't really that memorable, to be honest. Like, Kale was just there. But then at the end we see like a confrontation. Like, Kale has kind of dragged Dorian and Sorsha into like this rebel kind of area. That was what Kale was doing. He was doing stuff with the rebels. And they kind of they're like, I don't know whether they were found out or not, but at the end the king's like, right, you 3 come to my office, we need to talk. And then he kills Sorsha, and then Dorian goes all like and blows up the throne room a little bit, and he kind of sacrifices himself to save Kale. And I'm like, oh, Kale was getting really annoying in this book. You should have run Dorian. Kale should have sacrificed himself for you, but he didn't. So Dorian sacrifices himself to save Kale, and then we get kind of a nice sequence where Kale's running through the castle, and he grabs Fleetfoot, Celaena's dog, and he grabs all the books, and he kind of just runs for it down the secret passage. And that was really vivid imagery in my head, so I really enjoyed that sequence. And he kind of like in a rowboat going away, and he's like talking to the doorknob, and he's like, if Celaena comes back, tell her what happened. I'm like, dude, it's a doorknob, it's not going to do anything you tell it to do. I know it's magic, but it's not going to listen to you. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Then we also had another POV, which was of this witch character called Manon, and she was kind of like, it was kind of like How to Train Your Dragon. She is part of this like coven of witches called the Iron Beaks or something like that. They can like, they have like Wolverine nails, where they have like iron nails and they shoot out an iron teeth. Which is really cool interpretation on witches. I think I said that in the previous book as well. But they've been employed by the king, the evil king, to train these like wyvern dragon creatures. And we just kind of see Manon do that. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't really care. I didn't really care about her that much. Like, dragons are cool and all, and I did enjoy seeing the dragons, but it's just a new character in the 3rd book, and we have no prior knowledge of her, and I'm just kind of like, Like, couldn't this have been like Catalina? Couldn't Catalina have like escaped and like joined the dragon? That would have been cool. Talking of Catalina, still completely useless character. So yeah, Manon and the dragons were I'm hoping they get like better in the next books. I think that's all I have to say about this book. I'm trying to be really quick because it's like the last book to talk about in this part of the video. But yeah, I enjoyed this one, but not as much as Crown of Midnight. Celaena is on her way back to the capital now. Oh, I didn't even talk about Celaena and Maeve. They have a confrontation at the end. Celaena kind of like threatens Maeve. She's like, look, I'm gonna burn down your castle. And Maeve's like, oh, but my castle's made of stone. You can't burn it. And then she's like, yeah, but your people inside aren't are still flammable. And she's like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So Selena kind of like holds her hostage and she's like, look, release Rowan from this blood oath, which is like ties him to do whatever Maeve tells him to do. So Maeve reluctantly does that, and now Rowan and Selena are off on the run away from Maeve, who I think is going to become like a major villain now. I think that's kind of where we're heading. She's going to be this major villain as well as the king. But I did really like Maeve. So Selena and Rowan are now free. He swore a blood oath to Selena now, so now she can control him. Like, why would you just go from one person to the other? But it's up to him. So they're on their way back to the capital, just as Kale has escaped it, and just as Dorian has been captured, and Saoirse died. I can't believe, like, Saoirse is like this really cool healer, and it was like setting her up to be this new character, and she just dies. She just dies just to motivate Dorian. Like, why? But yeah, there's gonna be some tension in the next book. I think we might see Dorian being enslaved like the rest of the like demon princes. They get like normal people and put like rings on them and make them like mind controlled. So I think oh yeah, Dorian got the collar on. I forgot. Dorian gets a collar, not a ring at the end, and they like trap him like an animal, and it's like, oh. Yeah, a lot of stuff setting up the next book. If only it had started in this book. But this book was good. I'm actually enjoying this series a lot more than I thought I would. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I'm going to check my notes. So I'd rate this one a 3.5. I didn't think I rated Crown of Midnight. If I didn't, I gave it 4 stars. And Kale is getting a bit stagnant. He's a bit boring. So they're my thoughts on this book. I'm definitely enjoying this book, this series a lot more than I thought I would. And yeah, I'm going to put this down. So this video was actually supposed to be all of the books I was going to talk about, but I'm actually going to split this into 2 parts. So this has the books I've just talked about, and then the next video is going to have Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash. And yeah, so make sure to subscribe if you want to see the second part of this video. If you enjoyed this one, leave a thumbs up. I'll be posting part 2 either the first week of August or later on this week, which is the last week of July. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I definitely enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun to film, and the books are actually enjoyable. Yep, Tessa's still here. Yeah, leave a like for Tessa. And comment and tell me what your thoughts were on these books. If you read them, if you haven't read them, and you watched this far, why? But if you just got spoiled for the first 4 books in the series, then let me know what it sounds like to you, and if you are still interested in reading them. But yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next part. Bye.